You were lied to. The Houston Astros' biggest rivalry was never with the New York Yankees or any other team. It was with Minute Maid Park. This team absolutely despises winning at home, particularly in the postseason, and it will never make sense. I mean, sure, this is the same team in the one team, ironically, that's clinched a World Series on their home turf in the last 10 plus years, but they're also the same team that's lost 3 in a row at home to lose to the Red Sox in the ALCS in 2018. Losing the World Series in 2019 because they lost every home game, saw the Braves clinch on their home field in 2021, lost every home game in the Battle of Texas against the Rangers last year, and have now lost 7 straight postseason home games with another long winter ahead. But at least last year's ending for Houston was exciting. It had more drama, seemed like more at stake, and it was fitting for the team that it was in the position they were in, playing the eventual World Series winning Rangers, a team that shocked a lot of people. And the way Houston went down this year was just as fitting, only in a completely different way. It was not very exciting. There was no drama really, but it couldn't have been a more appropriate fate for what the Astros were in 2024. Yeah, seeing them potentially face the Yankees again would have been fun, at least in theory, but in reality, it wouldn't have felt right, and here's why. Really quick, if you exist, like the video and subscribe if you haven't yet, or as always, you can just wait to see if you enjoy the video and then make a decision. That works too. When the Astros lost last year after looking to be on top yet again, I thought that was it. They came through clutch to end the regular season to steal the division from the Rangers. Alex Bregman gets all cocky, and even though things immediately looked bleak for Houston in the ALCS, they still did what we've gotten used to them doing, winning all 3 games in Arlington, capped off by a clutch Jose Altuve moment. Everything was lining up per usual for the defending champs, only for the Rangers to pull a Washington Nationals and smack Houston in the mouth to end their year and win the World Series. So after that, I didn't necessarily believe the Astros were going to suck in 2024, but I thought it was a fitting end to an era and birth of a new one that would see other teams start winning out west, for teams like the Rangers and Mariners to start taking over, and it looked like that to start 2024, even though you could argue the Astros were built better heading into the year than they did even the previous year. Houston's big offseason splash was signing arguably the best closer in baseball, Josh Hader, to one of the most expensive contracts ever for a reliever. So what this did was add an insanely elite arm to an already talented bullpen. So you have arguably the best bullpen in baseball now to go along with most of the same guys you had the year before in terms of the rotation and lineup offensively. Despite this, though, it really did look like the end of 2023 was the birth of a new era out west, because the Astros started off horribly, and with the Rangers having a World Series hangover this year, never once going on a consistent run of winning and looking like they did last year, it was looking like 2024 would be the year for Seattle. Finally, their time to win the division and get back to the postseason after taking a step back in 2023. So combine the Rangers just being lackluster and having a World Series hangover, the Astros having a really bad start to the year, and the Angels and A's being just about what we expected them to be, and you have the Seattle Mariners jumping out to a 10-game lead in first place in that division. Seattle has such strong pitching. I mean, all the signs were pointing to it. But instead of the Mariners going on to do something they haven't done in 23 years, winning their division, something the rest of the teams were giving them on a silver platter, while they had the best pitching staff in baseball, they really said, nope. Well, the hitters at least said that. So because the Mariners didn't take advantage of the advantage they had being in such a weak division, the Astros basically ended up as the ones to stand up and say, alright, shit, we'll take it, I guess. And that, alright, shit, we'll take it, I guess, is basically how I describe this 2024 Astros team. After that really bad start I talked about, they did play much better, obviously, but they never turned into the Astros we've come to know. Heading into the postseason, I wasn't really feeling this team, and the reason being is because there didn't seem too much to be excited about. That may sound crazy to say about a team that had just won their 7th straight division title in a full season, but the 2024 Astros did not seem like a continuation of those teams. Whether you love or hate Houston, with the latter being the majority of non-Astros fans, at least in years past they were exciting. There was a lot to those teams that you could get behind, to either root for or love to root against. It was easy to be passionate about them one way or another. But this year, The Houston Astros didn't feel like a 7th straight division winning team, more like a team that just happened to be the one to make it out of the AL West division alive because the format forces it to work that way. Credit to the Astros pitching this season, and not even the bullpen as much as the starting rotation, even though the big blockbuster move they made in the offseason was for the bullpen. That's why they made it as far as they did to begin with, the rotation. And it's weird for how lackluster this Astros team felt, because as a team from top to bottom statistically, there actually wasn't anything that significantly wrong with them. The offense has one constant, one thing that did not change: Yordan Alvarez. He was as great and as dangerous as ever, batting over 300 and getting on base while socking another 35 home runs on the year with 34 doubles, continuing to be a top hitter in the game and playing almost every day. But the rest of the offense, not so much. That doesn't mean the offense was bad, it wasn't, and it was a top 10 offense by season's end, but the way it was a good detachment from what we've seen for years, if that makes sense. The Astros lineup other than Yordan was full of good above average or average hitters. Nobody who particularly scared you other than Kyle Tucker next to Yordan, but even Kyle Tucker, who was as elite as Yordan, missed most of the season because of a shin injury. Jose Altuve was good per usual, even in what would be considered a down year by his standards. Yainer Diaz, the 25-year-old taking over full-time at catcher after Martin Maldonado leaving after 2023, fulfilled the promise of a much more hitting-centric catcher, putting up really good offensive numbers, especially for a catcher. Then there was Alex Bregman playing in what might be his final year in Houston, and he was good, pretty on brand for what he's been since 2020. Good, not great, nowhere near what he was in 2019 when he finished second in the MVP race. He should get a nice contract, but of course nothing near to what we probably thought he would have gotten several years ago. And as for everyone else, Jeremy Pena continued his hot run of being one of the weaker hitting shortstops in baseball. After winning ALCS and World Series MVP a couple years ago, he's really struggled, like a lot since. John Singleton had a nice year for what he is. I like his story a lot, a journeyman who had drug issues, only to come back and start most of the Astros games as their first baseman this year. That's pretty cool. Again, good offense, but it just didn't seem as loud as it's been in years past. It just felt off. The whole team did. The starting pitching was great, actually. Framber Valdez was one of the best starters in baseball. He continues to be. Hunter Brown started pitching like one of the best in baseball after an abysmal start to the year. Then you had the more unexpected names like Ronel Blanco, a 30-year-old journeyman who had only started 7 big league games until this year, threw a no-hitter in his first of the season and was great the whole way, along with the rookie Spencer Arrighetti, who showed a lot of promise. Yusei Kikuchi ended up being awesome after getting traded to the Astros at the deadline, but he was only a rental, and they gave up a whole lot for him, so was it really worth it? It's becoming clear that, despite Justin Verlander having the Hall of Fame career he's had, that maybe you can't really rely on a 41-year-old to stay healthy and effective as much as we thought. And as for the bullpen, it wasn't as advertised, but still good. Josh Hader was definitely a disappointment, though. He wasn't very locked down at all, and not that great. But overall, not a bad bullpen. So again, there was nothing glaring about this team from a statistics standpoint. Everything was good, yet simultaneously felt off. I think the fact that they started out as poorly as they did contributes to why I feel this way, but even when they got back on track and when it became pretty clear they were going to win the division, the 2024 Astros never felt as lively as any of the other American League playoff teams. They didn't feel as hungry, and clearly there was something to that, considering the Astros season ended exactly how it felt like it was supposed to all along. What went down in the wildcard series shouldn't really be that shocking. I think what the Tigers are doing is shocking, and it's been so magical, but this matchup ended up pretty much how it should have, as Detroit ended up being the last team Houston wanted in the playoffs, because what ended up happening was a very experienced team used to making the playoffs, but one that didn't look or feel as hungry, losing to a team full of young, ambitious, and gritty players who had never previously played in the postseason, on a franchise that hadn't sniffed October in 10 years. Instead of Jason Hayward hitting a walk-off grand slam like something that would have happened in years past, he'd line a ball right at Spencer Torkelson for the final out. And instead of the Astros putting up a crooked number in the 7th inning of Game 2, something that would have happened in years past, they'd end their rally as quickly as they started it, and proceed to immediately give up 4 runs the next inning, going down the rest of the way without a fight. The Astros don't suck. back, obviously, but there wasn't any point in 2024 that screamed it was their year. That magical, hungry, and inevitable feeling we become so used to with this team was absent. Instead of a team that went all the way or fell short after a memorable postseason run, we got a team that was a shell of its former self, winning a division that was practically given to them, before immediately being put to bed without much of a fight by a new team that does have that magic and hunger. An anticlimactic finish to a team that just felt anticlimactic all year long, and frankly, I feel like that's what this 2024 Houston Astros team deserved in the end. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching.